be the first to tell you that this video is not what classroom management dreams are made of. This video is full of quick wins to help with those minor details of managing a classroom of 25 plus students. Because all of those little details add up and can become major problems if we don't have a few tricks up our sleeves. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent and I love sharing ways to help teachers simplify their classroom and their teaching. Okay, so let's talk about probably the first biggest area that can be a struggle as a teacher when it comes to managing a bunch of kids in one small space, and that is transitions. Transition can be messy and chaotic and noisy, and so having a few little tricks up your sleeve to help with those times can really lessen some of those things. So I've seen where teachers have timed students in their transitions, and I honestly think that is a great strategy. I've done it before. I think it works really well when you have multiple groups of students. So if you team teach or a middle school teacher or something where you have different groups and you can, kind of pin one class against another, I think that works. I have found to be more successful when I have my own students. I don't have multiple groups of students. I have the same students all day, is to do it based on their table groups. And so kind of helping them to set the goal. I have done it in the past where tables will get a tally point or some sort of point reward for being the quickest. Usually I do quickest and quietest. So I usually give 2 points out every time, quickest and quietest. Then at the end of the week, they might earn some dojo points or a little piece of candy or some sort of trinket, prize, what have you. And I did that for years and it works fine. But I found this game board on Teachers Pay Teacher. I will link it below. I use that with my table and they go through the game board. And originally I was going to do it where when somebody gets it in, they win the prize, everybody starts back over. And I don't know if it was in this product that gave me this idea or if I just came up with it. Probably it was in the product. But instead of when a group gets to the end of the game board, the finish line and wins, they obviously get something. And now they get stickers because they're so cheap and so easy to give. They get to go to the sticker store. Then they go back to the start, but I don't reset everybody. I let them all continue on where they're at. Now, it does lose sort of this level of competition against each other, but then it really becomes more about let's work together so we can move ours. And I notice that as they get closer to the finish, they'll work a little harder because they want to go ahead and get that sticker, even though they know that they have as much time as they need. But what really helps with this is that there's always a case where it doesn't matter what your seating chart is, there's always like one group that just gets along a little bit better, is a little more tidy and quick and quiet, and so they tend to win all the points. And then there's that one group that has the one kid, maybe the two kids, that always mess it up for them. And so it became very frustrating for that group to never win. And so I think this eliminates that and allows students to be successful even if it takes them longer. That has worked well. This is my 3rd year using it this way. I don't think I'll go back to like, once we have a winner, everybody loses their points and doesn't ever get to win. Another thing that I really love for transitions, because I don't know about you, but you're giving the direction and they know the transition is coming, and you have some students who just start transitioning before you have finished giving the directions, and you're like, no, you're missing what I'm about to say, and so you're gonna get the first part of the transition done but miss the last 3 steps because you're already doing step 1 through 2. I implemented our doorbell as the transition signal. So they don't do anything until they hear that doorbell. It helps me to not have to say, and go. I just ring the doorbell. They know that it is time to transition on to the next thing. Now, I use it more as we have finished something and it's time to put everything away. I think you could use it, I know you could, teach your kids to use it this way to where like you give the direction, you ring the doorbell, everybody moves. So typically what happens when I teach is whatever subject is I give instruction, we work together, and then they tend to go off on their own for independent practice, whether it's their must-do, may-do during our ELA time or their independent work during math. When it's time to transition from maybe we are about to go take a restroom break, it's time for lunch, it's time to go to our related art, whatever the case may be, there's students sort of sitting everywhere around the room. A lot of them have a bunch of different things out, Chromebooks, work, whatever. And so that doorbell is the signal of, okay, close our Chromebooks, start cleaning up, put everything away, because it's not just like a, hey, I need your attention. It's a, we got to put things away because we're moving on to the next thing. thing. And so that has worked really, really well at signaling the transition, so I don't have to say, okay, let's clean up, it's time to go to lunch. I just ring the doorbell and they start moving. Another thing that I recently, well, I think I had done it before, but I kind of brought it back. That's the one thing about like your tool bag of tricks is you do it and sometimes you quit doing it, but then you bring it back because you forget how effective it can be. We have to glue a lot of notes into our math notebooks. And so I found that they were taking a really long time to like clean up from that, which in my opinion, I don't know why, but it's literally glue in their notebook. Like, why is it taking you so long to put your glue away? We also watch a lot of little videos and things like that, little quick activating strategy type videos. It's a song or just a quick little teaching to remind us what we're learning in math. We watch a lot of those at the beginning of our math lesson as well. And so I started using the length of that video as how long they had to get their notes glued in and put their glue away. So often what I do is we have math right after related arts. So our transition into math is they are walking back into the room. They are grabbing their math book and their notebook out of their cubbies and their glue, and they're going to their seat, and I have the notes passed out, and so they're gluing that in. And so that's sort of our like come back in from PE or art and let's transition by you gluing these notes in, and then we're going to get started on a lesson that involved these notes. We do all that, everybody moves in, and once they're like sitting down gluing and I think, okay, you've had enough time to do it, I say, okay, let's watch our video for today on parallel lines. And so I play the video and I say, when the video is over, you should have your notes glued in and your glue away and you're ready to start the rest of our lesson. And so it gives them that time limit, and it doesn't make me sort of the bad guy. It's like the video is what's telling them they have to have it done by. And so that has helped, especially some of my slower workers or my sort of free spirit workers who are just in la la land some of the times, and it just kind of gives them a, I gotta get this glued in and situated. Another really easy thing is to have some sort of reward. I recently got this star jar. You've seen them everywhere, where it's magnetic and you put the little star pieces in, and we use that for a variety of reasons. We sometimes use it for our weekly goal. We set a goal. In our class meetings, students come up with what are some areas we need to work on, so we will set a goal for the following week. So we sometimes use that. It kind of depends what the goal is. So if it's raising our hand before we speak, there's a lot of opportunity for them to earn, so we'll use the star jar for that. If it's something like we're at level 0 after the bell rings in the mornings, there's really only 5 days for them to do that because that happens once a day. We'll usually just do, we have to get 4 out of 5 of the days to achieve the goal. I also use it for related arts, like good reports. So when we get a good report from our related art teacher, we put a star in the jar, and when it fills up, we get a few minutes of extra recess, some extra free time, something real simple. And so that's a great way, if you have a certain area that you want to focus on, to make a star jar, set a goal, work towards filling the jar, and then reward your students with something real simple like some extra recess. Another one you've probably seen going around is just a mystery student. You choose a student who you want to see is doing a good job in a certain area. I use it most often in our line. So I say, okay, I have my mystery student and I'm going to be watching to see if they're following directions and our procedures in the hall, in our line. And if they do, they'll get a dojo point, a sticker, a piece of candy, whatever sort of incentive you want to give them. I like to use that. I don't use it all the time. I like to use it during times when kids are squirrely anyway. So right before a holiday, maybe when it's been raining for a week straight and we haven't been outside and they have a lot of energy, but I need them to get through the hallway quietly because they're testing somewhere. I might use it for that. So I kind of pick and choose when I use that mystery student, but it doesn't have to just be in the line in a hallway. It could be, I'm looking for a mystery student during this certain amount of work time to see who is showing their work and working quietly and knows when they're done working what to do next without distracting others. You know, you can sort of set guidelines and parameters for however you want that to look. A mystery student during pack-up time might be a great idea, which that is actually a really good idea. I might try that, because pack-up time sometimes can get a little wild, a little crazy, because it's the end of the day and you have a limited amount of time before those buses leave or they start calling names for car lines. That's one of those things where just have it in your back pocket and pull it out when you need it. Another thing that I use all the time that I really love using are non-verbal cues. So these can help with transition too, but I just think we talk so much as a teacher. We are not only teaching and giving directions and helping students, but we're also redirecting students and asking somebody to do this, please pick that up. And so sometimes I think because we do a lot of the talking that they will tune us out And so having ways to non-verbally communicate with your students is also a really good way. Hand signals are probably the most common, where teachers will decide which number represents different things. So like a 1 is I need to go to the bathroom, 2 is a tissue, 3 is a pencil, whatever the case may be. I don't have hand signals for pencils and tissues because I just tell mine to get it when they need it. At least in the older grades, I just haven't felt a need for that. But I do have hand signals for restroom and water because that does require them to leave the room, and I need to know obviously when they're leaving the room, but I also want to distinguish it between I have an answer or I have a question. So we use sign language in our classroom. So they use the letter R for restroom, and they use a W for water. And honestly, water this year, most kids have water bottles, but water this year, the water fountain is literally right beside our classroom. So that hasn't really been a huge issue. And so really the only one is restroom. So I also have started using sign language for answer choices. We go over a lot of test-like questions during math and well, all the subjects, math, science, and ELA, pretty much. We are exposing our students to the different types of wording and questions, and we do that all throughout the year because we test multiple times throughout the year, but also that way we're not cramming it all into them right before state testing. We will go over these types of questions together, and so a lot of the times I am working the problem out, and some of my like high flyers they already know the answer and they're wanting to shout out the answer to keep them from doing that, because sometimes my question isn't what's the answer, it's which ones do we know are wrong. So I want to like model and teach to them the process of elimination, like getting rid of answer choices that are wrong. And so to kind of, I guess, hone in my high flyers, because I have a big group of high flyers this year, we use the letters A, B, C, and D as our answer choices. And so that way when I'm like, okay, which question or which one of the answer choices do we know are absolutely wrong, they can show me with their letters. And then we can, you know, once we've narrowed it down, okay, which one do we think the answer is, A, B, C, or D? What you do, if you do this, just a little extra tip, pay attention to what they're put up right away, because what some of your other students will do is look to see what the majority of them have, and they'll change their answer really quick. So if you kind of see what they're answering before they look at everybody else and change their answer, you can kind of see where those mishaps are happening and kind of address, like, I can see how some of you thought it might have been this because you know how test questions are worded. That has been really nice, and it just keeps that from like blurting out answers. And then we also at our school do a level 0. So instead of saying, I need you all to be at level 0 to quiet them down, we just hold up a 0. The kids have known this since from like kindergarten. Our principal uses it. So it's one of those things where they just hold up, and once they see one person doing it, you're supposed to do it too. So then it like slowly quiets everybody. And so we use that. I've seen some teachers, like, I think it was our music or art teacher used to use the quiet coyote. And so they would just make this little coyote shape with their hands, and they'd hold that up for the quiet coyote. And so then everybody would do that too. It's sort of just a nonverbal signal, like, okay, we're too loud, or I need everyone quiet because I have something important to say. So again, just that nonverbal way of getting students quiet. You know, there's callbacks and things like that, but it keeps you from having to say something, and you can just quiet coyote or level 0, whatever you want to do. If you want like a more in-depth look at some of my tried and true classroom management strategies that are not like these easy tricks that don't always work, check out the video that's on your screen.